Hello, and welcome to Tech Talks. Our DevOps edition today is focused on Splunk on Call. Tech Talks is a series of short webinars that are deep dives for technical practitioners. We value you, our customer, and we want you to continue in your Splunk journey. Our experts help create these best practices, and we want you to leverage them in your daily role. My name is Bill Emmett. I'm a director for product marketing in our observability business, and I'm excited to share with you some information around Splunk on Call and incident response.
My name is Cortis Hall, and I'm a sales engineer who originally joined Splunk through the acquisition of what's formerly known as VictorOps, and now Splunk on Call. I've worked with a lot of different customers, integrating multiple different solutions within Splunk and otherwise, and really excited to show how Splunk on Call combined with Splunk Enterprise can help optimize incident response processes.
Today, Cortis and I are going to talk through 4 topics here in today's fast-paced Tech Talk. We're first going to cover the incident response challenges that you'll see and why they require a more thoughtful approach. From there, I'll introduce Splunk on Call and how it can address some of the key incident response challenges you may be facing. Cortis will then come in and bring these concepts to life with a demonstration showing not only the Splunk on Call product, but how it integrates with Splunk. And last, we'll talk about how you can get started with Splunk on Call and provide you some resources to continue the discussion. Our team will be available for Q&A throughout this conversation with the Q&A widget that's on your screen. And if you watch a recorded version of this webinar, please continue this conversation through the Tech Talk discussions in the Splunk community at splunk.com/techtalk. Let's cover some of the key challenges that happen when incidents come into your organization and how people respond to them. When an incident, often in the form of an outage, comes into an organization, we typically see a few key phases, which quickly add up to a lot of time and energy. As organizations respond to the problem, they basically have a lag time between when that problem really began and when that incident is recognized. It's further exacerbated by the ping-pong game of incidents bouncing from department to another department before they're acknowledged and that work begins. As that work begins, yet more experts and more systems are involved, and ultimately a fix is found and deployed. All told, many organizations will spend hours on such an incident involving a number of people, some of which didn't need to be involved with, and it creates a lot of rerouting and just a general set of challenges for those customers before that service is restored. But it's not just the length of the outage, and even in some cases preventing the outage, that makes incident response challenging and important to solve for organizations. In addition to preventing and reducing downtime, there is that process of visibility and collaboration. How do you get everybody on the same page with shared context and shared facts? Another thing that happens in many organizations is that the idea of being on call feels very onerous, because in many cases it actually is. And on-call burnout is real, and it leads to a loss of engagement and even turnover in organizations. By not improving the way that incident response takes place, these problems don't get any better. Ideally, what you'd really like for your incidents is to have a few key attributes. First of all, reduce that lag time between alerts and when that alert has been created as an actual incident that people need to respond to. The second thing is you shouldn't have to hunt down either manually or through scripts the right teams and people in order to respond to the problem. And when that problem is being responded to, you want to have the right people and only the right people involved in quickly identifying and triaging and resolving the problem. As a result of that, you not only compress the amount of time required to solve, but you also have improved the way and the manner in which it's been solved. Shorter incidents, better response, less stress. It all sounds great. Now let's talk about how Splunk can help you address this with a product called Splunk On Call. In a nutshell, Splunk On Call consumes alerts that your monitoring tools, whether they're from Splunk or other vendors, create. By taking those alerts, parsing that information, and understanding the nature of that alert, Splunk On Call automates the process of engaging the right teams or people using everything from email and SMS to live phone call routing and various webhooks in order to engage the right people so that they're able to quickly acknowledge that they're working on that problem. Once you're in the problem, collaboration can occur through mechanisms like Slack, where many developers like to work, and through technologies like ServiceNow and other service desk software, which is how many support organizations like to work, keeping all of that conversation in context and synchronized with each other. As incidents are resolved, you then have the ability to look back on how that incident was resolved through a post-incident review process and have a very fact-driven post-incident review so that you can continuously improve the way that you do incidents in your organization. Through using Splunk On Call, there's really a few key areas of benefits that we think you will look forward to. The first one is the idea of centralized alerting. Rather than have to be highly responsive to a number of monitoring tools that you have, alerts basically have one destination, which is Splunk On Call, which then gets to the second major area of benefit, the ability of creating collaboration and context for those alerts, getting the right teams and people involved, as well as continuous improvement. And when you take these two things together, collaboration and continuous improvement, this is how you not only reduce the time of the incident that you're involved in, but you can improve your processes to reduce future incidents that are much like it. And then lastly is providing a better on-call experience, especially because more and more of IT organizations and development and developer support organizations are finding themselves on call. And being on call has never been made easier for operations teams, developers, and IT support teams that need to be on call. The mobile app for Splunk On Call is focused on what people who are on call really need to know. Your on-call schedule, who else is on call with you at that time that you may need to work with, and what incidents are in flight. So now that we've covered the key concepts around Splunk On Call, I'm going to bring Cordis up to walk you through a demonstration of Splunk On Call, and we're going to spend a little bit of extra focus on integrating incident response information with Splunk so that you can get further analytics and really share that information out with an even wider portion of your organization. Cordis, take it away.
A common incident scenario that we see with Splunk On Call, formerly known as VictorOps, and how all of the alert and incident data can be analyzed with Splunk Enterprise to yield meaningful outcomes for both our alerting systems and how we can optimize our response processes to reduce mean time to acknowledge, mean time to detection, and mean time to resolve. So I've just received this alert on my mobile device here on the left-hand side, indicating that there is a high error rate on my API service, and that came over from Splunk APM, or what's formerly known as SignalFX. First, I'm going to hop into this incident and actually acknowledge it so that my team knows that I'm digging in and that it stops sending me notifications. To get some more context, I'm going to open this alert details page here. And this is going to show me details sent directly over from the APM. I can see what the error rate is, I can see the environment that it triggered in, and I can see some other info sent over to ServiceNow because this is going to keep my ServiceNow ticket in sync at the same time that I work on this issue. Well, Splunk On Call was built mobile first, so everything I can do on the web version, I can also do in mobile. That way I don't always need to pull out my laptop every single time I get paged. The alert details give a glimpse into the nitty-gritty, but this snapshot of the actual alerting metric
which I'm going to pull up in the web and the mobile real quick. This snapshot is going to show me exactly what is going on with the metric that I'm being alerted on right now. And it looks like this triggered just a few seconds ago, and it's pretty serious. In order to deliver 4 nines of availability, there's only 4 minutes of downtime to spare each month. So every second really does count in these incident scenarios. There's also a lot of downstream services that could be affected or causing this issue that we're seeing here. So I want to alert those teams as well that, well, their service might be impacted, but their service also might be the cause of what we're seeing here. So what I'm going to do is just grab their escalation policy directly, and I can do this right from mobile. And the advantage here is that I don't need to worry about looking up who is on call when or what phone number should be contacted. I can just add in the database primary escalation policy and the development team's escalation policy. That's going to look up who's on call right now and how should they be contacted. And doing this right from mobile means that I can do this in seconds. Even in a scenario where I just get this in the middle of the night and I'm looking at it still in bed, I've already notified other teams that there's a serious issue going on. This timeline here is also going to keep track of all those things for me. So I can see every event in line. I can see who's come in and acknowledged this incident. Everything is kept in sync. I don't have to worry about where I'm looking at this, whether it's in Slack, ServiceNow, or here, or even within Splunk APM. I can see a message just came through from Saul Goodman, and it sounds like there was a config issue in the last deploy for this cluster, and they just reverted, so it should be resolving this issue in just a few seconds. So that's great, and this incident hasn't even been triggered for that long. So let's hope we see a recovery come in soon. I just got a message from Saul Goodman, who sent a message in Slack to this same incident channel, and he said, it looks like there was a configuration issue in the last deploy for this cluster. And he reverted, here's a Slack message that just came over from user Saul Goodman in Slack, where he was talking about this incident in Slack, and it propagated right over to on-call. And it sounds like there might have been a configuration issue in the last deploy, and hopefully it should be resolving here in any second. And there it is. We've already got the confirmation from Splunk APM, or what was formerly known as SignalFX, that we've now seen that error rate drop back down, and we're in a much better space now. Now, a scenario like this can actually happen fairly frequently, where we'll have a quick event, it gets dealt with really quickly, but what's the actual business impact from all of these incidents that we're seeing? So all the data that we were looking at there, we have data coming from a monitoring tool in Splunk APM. We have chat messages coming in. We could have updated the status in ServiceNow on that ticket. And it's all getting mixed together and on call. And we've got a lot of different data types and scenarios that we're really looking at. And so what better tool to look at all that data and to start to extract some trends and patterns than Splunk? So using the Splunk add-on for VictorOps, or Splunk add-on for on-call, of course, as now known, and we can pull the VictorOps API and ingest data from multiple on-call organizations, and we can ingest just the data that we care about. So it's an extremely minimal amount of data that we're carrying over into Splunk. So a dashboard like what we're seeing here, this is something that I can use to keep track of data in Splunk on-call on the present tense, right? We can see what's going on right now, how many new incidents acknowledged, and how many have been resolved based off of the current time frame we're looking at. And again, this can be across different Splunk on-call organizations. So if you have a different organization for security, as you do IT, as you might for developers, you can choose how you want these dashboards to appear. And of course, they're all easy to customize for your own liking as well with this edit button. You can also keep track of where the incidents are coming from by monitoring tool. Which tools are causing the most noise, and which team is being notified the most. Looks like Team Shaw is getting the brunt of the incidents right now for the last 24 hours. I can also go down to this incident analysis dashboard, and this is going to start to show me some more patterns that we're seeing in this data. Now, one of the charts that I really like on this page is this monitoring tool to team diagram. And this really illustrates which teams are being alerted from which tools. What are they getting the most use out of? In this case, what we're seeing is the Splunk APM is notifying a whole slew of teams, but there's also an overlap with the Splunk Infrastructure Monitor. We can see live incidents down here. So if there's anything that we want to take a deeper look at, we can easily hop in to one of these incidents here. And that will take us directly back to Splunk On Call. Instance by entity ID and team. This is going to show us if there's a specific type of alarm that's firing over and over. In this case, we're seeing this high error rate for the API service triggering pretty frequently. So it seems like, if we've seen that 12 times in the last 24 hours, that's something we really need to take a look at. So maybe we just solved that in 4 minutes, but it seems like based off the data we're seeing here, this is probably going to trigger again later today even. Now, SLA violations are, of course, something we try to avoid. That's the whole idea of using something like Splunk On Call, so we can minimize those response times and get back and up and running as soon as possible. But regardless of our intention and how great we try and be, there's going to be scenarios here and there where we're going to exceed and violate these SLAs. But by looking at all this data in Splunk, it makes it really easy to assign service level SLAs, understand where those violations are occurring and under what conditions. And it's not about the blame game of who's doing the worst, who's messing up. Maybe certain teams or analysts don't have the support that they really need to do their job function well. Because at the end of the day, these SLA violations are affecting the entire organization. And as a team, we should really be coming together and helping each other be able to resolve these incidents quicker. So maybe that means some more work on the back end so they don't trigger in the first place. Or maybe we just need to help with the process that we're going through to resolve these incidents. How can we have better runbooks? How can we have better rules or routing so that that entire process can be shortened up from detection to acknowledgement to troubleshooting to a resolve. Now it's also nice down here. Here's just the SLA violations that we have on a per incident basis. So we can see what the current phase of that incident is, if it's triggered, acknowledged, or resolved. Of course, if it's active, we need to dig into that right away. But after the fact, for these resolved incidents, it makes it really easy to pull those exact instances out, take a look at them in Splunk On Call, and understand what went wrong or if there was a lack of communication or whatnot. It's also going to show we had 267 incidents with no violations. So let's focus on the good here too. We resolved 267 incidents that didn't exceed our SLA. So of course there's a lot of alerting and incident data that we can look at. But the whole other side that we can look at here is the administrative side. How can we optimize those processes? How can we understand our on-call schedules? Sometimes when we've got a bunch of different Splunk on-call organizations, we need to be able to view them broadly and understand how schedules overlap with one another across Splunk on-call instances. With these dashboards here, we can combine all that data together. We can really create any sort of custom report we want. For current on-call, we can just surface who's on call for every single team across every single organization. Really easy to do that. For an on-call calendar, you can easily overlay different teams together and again across multiple different organizations. We'll grab a team here so that we can take a look. Grab this database team. And this will produce a schedule that you can view, customize, do whatever you'd like with. Behind the scenes, this is of course just Splunk data. So at the end of the day, if you just want to Splunk all this data, you can create any sort of custom report you'd like. And that gets me to this last page down here, this teams page. What this is going to do is this is going to show me everybody who is in all of my Splunk on call organizations. And we can actually take a look at this data however we want, of course, because it's Splunk. So we can just hop right into the events themselves. And we can create custom reports like who has an email-only paging policy, who has a policy that they're not actually going to get woken up in the middle of the night when it's a critical issue. And being able to produce all of these custom reports for your custom requirements for your organization, this is going to be critical to optimizing all of your processes so that when you find yourself in a situation like we just showed earlier, you're going to be able to resolve that incident extremely quickly, and you're going to be able to trust that all the data that was in all these disparate locations was centralized and is now in a place where you can easily look back at it and keep up with it. Because the last thing you want to do in the middle of a firefight is worry about documentation or organization. You just want to solve the issue as fast as you can and get back to bed or get back to the work that you were otherwise working on. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this demonstration here. You can get a lot deeper into these processes. Everybody's got their own flavor of customization for here that I think is really exciting. And so, all the data that's being produced here, it's a combination of alerting, processes, and it's even a reflection of the monitoring tools themselves. And being able to correlate all that is going to be critical when it comes to reducing mean time to acknowledge, mean time to resolve, and being able to improve both of those metrics for your organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that great demo, Cordis. If what you saw in that demo was interesting to you, we hope that you take some steps to learn a little bit more about Splunk On Call and look at ways to get started for you and your on-call teams. There's a few ways to take this conversation to the next step. The first one is to learn more about Splunk On Call. And on the screen, you see a URL that will get you right to a whole array of resources about incident response, best practices, as well as ways of automating the incident response process with Splunk On Call. Another thing that we encourage you to do is to view our conf presentations that we've made around Splunk On Call. Not only will you hear Splunkers like myself talk to you about Splunk On Call and how to integrate it and with the tools that you already have, but you'll also hear some experiences that some of our customers have had using On Call and what best practices they can share with you. And third, and perhaps one of the most important ways of experiencing Splunk On Call is to try it for free. We have a fully featured 14-day trial for Splunk On Call. It takes just minutes to get started, and it's a very intuitive process to get sample teams, organizations, and incidents set up in your organization. And I deeply encourage you to give Splunk On Call a try. And don't forget that we have an incredible community of Splunk users on our community site. You can search the answers section, or you can create new questions with the tag On Call. You can create conversation for this talk within the discussions section called TED Talks, where you will find all the additional resources. And finally, there is Splunk Ideas, where you can submit new product enhancements or vote for current ideas from other customers. On behalf of Cordis and I, thank you so much for joining us for today's Tech Talk. Have a wonderful day.